April 2013, the Baltimore City Detention Center. This is a maximum security facility designed to strip men of their freedom. Steel bars, concrete floors, guards watching every move. The state of Maryland spends millions of dollars a year to ensure that the men inside have zero control over their lives. But inside Cell Block D, something impossible is happening. An inmate named Tavon White is sitting on his bunk. He isn't eating prison slop. He is eating grilled salmon and lobster tail. He isn't drinking tap water. He is pouring a glass of Grey Goose vodka. And he isn't alone. He is being served by a uniformed prison guard who isn't there to search his cell. She is there to take his orders. Tavon White entered this prison as a low-level gang member facing attempted murder charges. He was supposed to be powerless. Instead, within months, he became the CEO of a criminal corporation operating from behind bars. He made more money inside than he ever did on the streets, earning $16,000 a month selling contraband. He didn't need to escape. Why would he? In here, he was a king. While the warden thought he was running the facility, Tavon White was quietly buying the loyalty of the staff. He turned 13 female guards into his personal servants, smugglers, and lovers. He impregnated 4 of them at the same time. 2 of them tattooed his name on their bodies. The FBI listened in horror on a wiretap as he declared the absolute truth. "This is my jail. You understand that? I make every final call in this jail." The government thought they had locked a criminal in a cage. They didn't realize they had just built him a fortress. To understand how one man could hijack a prison, you first have to understand the army behind him. Tavon White wasn't just a charismatic thug. He was a high-ranking commander in the Black Guerrilla Family, or BGF. Most gangs are born on the streets and end up in prison. The BGF is different. It was born in prison for prison. Founded in 1966 at San Quentin by former Black Panther George Jackson, the BGF wasn't designed to be a chaotic mob. It was designed to be a revolutionary paramilitary organization. They have a constitution. They have a rank structure. They have a pledge of allegiance. Their goal was simple: to overthrow the system from the inside out. By the time Tavon White arrived in Baltimore, the BGF had evolved. They were no longer just revolutionaries, they were capitalists. The Baltimore jail was their headquarters. Inside the walls, the BGF operated with brutal efficiency. They controlled the flow of every illicit item. If you wanted a cigarette, you paid the BGF. If you wanted protection, you paid the BGF. Any inmate who refused to pay was taxed with violence. Tavon White rose through the ranks not just because he was tough, but because he was a brilliant manager. He understood that violence was messy. Business was better than violence. He turned the BGF cell block into a logistics hub. But to run a business, you need a supply chain. And the only way to get supplies into a maximum security facility is through the front door. Tavon didn't try to break the walls down. He decided to buy the people holding the keys. The genius of Tavon White's operation was his recruitment strategy. He didn't target the male guards. He targeted the women. In the Baltimore Detention Center, female correctional officers, COs, were underpaid, overworked, and often disrespected by their superiors. They were vulnerable. And Tavon was a master predator. He didn't start with bribes. He started with charm. He would compliment their hair. He would ask about their day. He would listen to their problems when their own husbands wouldn't. He created an emotional dependency. To these women, he stopped being Inmate 305-241 and became Bulldog, a protector, a confidant, a boyfriend. Once the emotional hook was set, the financial hook followed. The average salary for a guard was barely enough to cover rent. Tavon would make a simple offer: "Bring me a sandwich and I'll give you $100. It seemed harmless. A sandwich isn't a weapon, it isn't drugs. So the guard agrees. She takes the money. And in that moment, the trap snaps shut. She has compromised herself. She has taken a bribe. The next request isn't for a sandwich, it's for a cell phone. "Bring me a phone and I'll give you $1,000. If she refuses, Tavon can expose her for the first bribe. She loses her job. She goes to jail. She has no choice. She is now an employee of the BGF. Tavon recruited 13 female officers this way, but for his inner circle, the royal harem, he went further. He offered them love. He gave them expensive gifts, diamond rings, luxury cars like Mercedes-Benz and BMWs, purchased with drug money and registered in their names. He made them feel like queens in his kingdom. Jennifer Owens, Katara Stevenson, Chania Brooks, Tiffany Linder. These weren't just corrupt guards, they were devoted partners. They were so loyal that they smuggled drugs in their hair, in their shoes, and even in their body cavities. They stood guard while he conducted business. They warned him about shakedowns. They essentially handed him the keys to the prison. Tavon White didn't need to break out. The guards had locked themselves in with him. By 2012, the Baltimore City Detention Center had ceased to function as a correctional facility. It had transformed into a thriving, tax-free marketplace. And sitting at the top of the pyramid was Tavon White. He wasn't just a gang leader anymore. He was the CEO of a monopoly. The business model was simple: high demand, zero competition, and a captive audience. The most valuable commodity in prison wasn't gold. It was communication. A contraband cell phone inside the walls could sell for $3,000. Tavon didn't just have one phone. He had a fleet of them. Through his compromised guards, he smuggled in hundreds of smartphones. These devices allowed inmates to continue running their criminal enterprises on the outside, transfer funds via mobile apps, and even organize witness intimidation. Tavon charged a tax for every call made and every message sent. He turned the prison block into a private call center. But the real revenue stream came from illicit substances. Percocet, Xanax, marijuana, and other contraband flowed into the facility like water. The profit margins were staggering. A single pill that cost $10 on the street could be sold for $50 or $100 inside. Tavon White controlled the entire supply chain. If an independent dealer tried to smuggle goods in, they were shut down. Or worse, the BGF taxed everything. Even the prison cafeteria was under their influence. Inmates who didn't pay for protection often found their food trays empty. The logistics of this operation were a masterpiece of corruption. The recruited officers acted as high-priced couriers. They didn't just hide items in their pockets. They wore specially designed undergarments to conceal packages. They walked through security checkpoints where their colleagues, also on Tavon's payroll, waved them through without a search.
Just go on.
They carried duffel bags filled with goods directly into the staff break rooms, where inmates would collect them during cleaning shifts. The money generated was astronomical for a prison economy. Court documents later revealed that Tavon White was earning up to $16,000 a month. That is nearly $200,000 a year, tax-free, while serving a sentence for attempted murder. He didn't keep the money under his mattress. He used the phones to manage bank accounts. He purchased luxury cars for his family and his guard girlfriends. He invested in businesses on the outside. Inside the jail, his lifestyle was legendary. His cell was better stocked than a convenience store. He had a flat-screen television, a video game console, and a refrigerator filled with premium food. While the prison administration struggled with budget cuts and staff shortages, Tavon White was living in luxury. He held court in the day room, sitting on a stack of chairs like a throne, deciding disputes between inmates and even assigning duties to the guards. If a guard disrespected a BGF member, Tavon could have them fired or transferred. He had successfully inverted the power structure. The prisoners were the wardens, and the wardens were the servants. The empire was secure, or so he thought. Corruption in prisons usually involves money. A guard looks the other way for a bribe. It's transactional. But what Tavon White built was something far more dangerous than a business relationship. He built a family. A twisted, loyal, and compromised family inside the walls of the detention center. At the center of his inner circle were 4 specific correctional officers: Jennifer Owens, Katara Stevenson, Chania Brooks, and Tiffany Linder. To the outside world, they were law enforcement officers. To Tavon White, they were his royal harem. This wasn't a secret affair hidden in the shadows. It was a brazen display of power. Tavon didn't just manipulate these women, he claimed them. He impregnated all 4 of them while he was incarcerated. Think about the logistics of that. In a maximum security environment designed to keep people apart, Tavon White fathered 5 children with 4 different guards. This required a level of privacy and freedom that should have been impossible. It meant that other guards were watching the door while they were together. The level of devotion he extracted from them was cult-like. Jennifer Owens, one of the officers, had Tavon's name tattooed on her neck. Katra Stevenson had Tavon tattooed on her wrist. They branded themselves as his property. They weren't just smuggling contraband, they were protecting their husband. When rival gangs threatened Tavon, these officers provided intelligence. They told him which cells were being searched and when. In intercepted text messages, the depth of their loyalty was revealed. Jennifer Owens texted him, "I love you. I'll do anything for you. I'm your ride or die." Another officer, when asked by a friend why she risked her career for an inmate, simply replied, "He takes care of me better than any man on the outside." Tavon White had exploited their loneliness and their financial struggles to create a bond that was stronger than their badge. He wasn't just their leader, he was the father of their children. And you don't arrest the father of your children. You protect him. While Tavon White was busy expanding his empire, he made one critical mistake. He assumed that his control stopped at the prison walls. It didn't. The FBI had been watching. They noticed the flow of drugs. They noticed the unexplained wealth of the correctional officers. But they needed proof. They needed to hear it from the king himself. In late 2012, federal agents obtained a warrant to tap Tavon White's contraband cell phones. For months, they listened. They heard drug deals being brokered. They heard money laundering instructions. They heard the intimate conversations with the guards. But what they were waiting for was a confession of leadership. They needed to prove he was the head of the snake. On a cold day in January 2013, Tavon gave them exactly what they needed. Thinking he was speaking privately to a friend, he let his ego take over. The recording devices captured a monologue that would become legendary in criminal history. With absolute arrogance, Tavon boasted, "This is my jail. You understand that? I make every final call in this jail. Everything come to me." He continued detailing his power. "Whatever I say is law. I am the law in here. Before I came here, I was a nobody. Now I am the authority." Those words were the nail in his coffin. The FBI didn't just have evidence of smuggling. They had a recorded confession of a RICO conspiracy. They realized the corruption was too deep to fix with a few arrests. They needed to take down the entire infrastructure. They identified 25 correctional officers, inmates, and suppliers involved in the ring. They built a case file thousands of pages thick, but the final betrayal was yet to come. When the FBI finally played those tapes back to Tavon White in an interrogation room, he didn't fight. He didn't lawyer up. He realized his loyal family couldn't save him from the federal government. And like any good CEO facing a hostile takeover, he decided to cut a deal. The king was about to become the star witness. The end came swiftly. In April 2013, the FBI executed a massive coordinated raid. Correctional officers who had arrived for their morning shift were met with handcuffs instead of coffee. 27 people were indicted, including 13 female guards. The news shocked the nation. The idea that a single inmate could capture an entire state facility seemed impossible, yet the evidence was overwhelming. Facing decades in a federal supermax prison, Tavon White made his final move. He pleaded guilty. He agreed to testify against the very officers he had seduced and corrupted. In exchange for his cooperation, his sentence was capped at 12 years. The king had turned on his subjects to save himself. The officers weren't so lucky. Most received prison sentences, losing their careers, their pensions, and their freedom. The Baltimore City Detention Center became a symbol of institutional failure. The state of Maryland spent millions overhauling security, installing signal jammers, and polygraphing staff. But the legend of Tavon White remains. It is a stark reminder of a simple truth. Walls and bars can stop men, but they cannot stop corruption. If you give a prisoner enough time, enough charisma, and enough leverage, he won't just escape the cage. He will buy the keys.